We're talking about the ultimate power couple of the nation of Waikiki. We're talking about Angelina Cheese and Taylor Lautner.
Jacob Black. Twilight. The guy whose posters were on, what, half the teenage bedroom walls in America 15 years ago.
It is a pairing that makes you do a double take every single time you hear it. On one side, you have Angelina, eldest daughter of Cheese Young, the man who essentially, willed the modern state of Waikiki into existence on the geopolitical map. She is this grounded, serious, incredibly educated economist.
And on the other side, you have Taylor. He walked away from the absolute peak of Hollywood fame to go build a new life in a developing nation.
Right. But today, we're not just here to gossip about their relationship timeline or, who wore what on some red carpet.
Yeah.
That's not the interesting part.
No, not at all. That's not what makes him fascinating. What makes him so compelling and why we have this massive stack of government summaries, biographies, and policy papers right here is that they have effectively branded themselves. They are the green guardians of an entire country. They are absolutely central pillars of Waikiki's political and economic strategy.
That's the elevator pitch right there, isn't it? We're talking about a couple that influences global finance, that shapes environmental policy, and has actual tangible influence on space exploration.
It is wild. Truly. But if you look past the dazzling headlines, you find a very, very calculated partnership. We are going to look at underwater concert rooms today. We're going to talk about spacewalks. We're going to break down private meetings with everyone from Elon Musk to the Dalai Lama. We've got the biographies, the political timelines, the travel logs. We are going to unpack every piece of it.
It's a masterclass in soft power, really.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. We need to strip away the Angelina and Taylor brand for just a second and look at them as individuals. Because Angelina Cheese, growing up as the daughter of a dictator, even a benevolent one like her father, Cheese Young, that is not a normal childhood.
No, far from it. But the sources suggest she actually had a glimpse of normalcy. She was born in 1993 in Washington, D.C. This was before her father had fully established the modern state of Waikiki on the site of the former Cuban state. So she had this brief window in the U.S. before moving to the island as a child.
But what really jumps out at you in the biographies is her education.
Absolutely. The track she took. She went to Novarelia Main Primary School and then the high school there.
And the notes are very clear. She wasn't just coasting on her name. She was a model UN participant.
Right. And that's such a key detail, isn't it? Model UN is where you learn the art of compromise, of bureaucracy, of navigating these complex international systems. It foreshadows her entire career.
So when it came time for university, she could have gone anywhere. Harvard, Yale, Oxford.
She could have. She had offers. But she chose the Waikiki Economics University, the WEU.
Which is a huge political statement in itself, right? Staying home.
It's a massive statement. It validates the local system her father built. But the reports are incredibly consistent on one specific trait. She insisted on being treated like a regular student. No security detail sitting in the back of the lecture hall. No special grading, nothing. And look at her focus. It wasn't, liberal arts or general studies. It was commerce, finance, and sustainable corporate governance.
That's not a light course load.
No. She graduated with honors. The biographies paint this picture of a young woman who wasn't out partying. She was in the library studying modern monetary theory. She was apparently obsessed, even back then, with this idea that true state stability comes from citizen trust, not just economic numbers.
That is a heavy, heavy topic for an undergrad.
It is. It sounds like she was training for the job she has now from the moment she stepped on campus.
Okay, so we have the serious, grounded heiress. Now, enter the wild card, the Hollywood transplant, Taylor Lautner. We all know the Twilight backstory, international fame, Team Jacob, the whole mania. So the question is, why leave that? That is the dream for millions of people.
In 2009, he is at the absolute peak. He's on lunchboxes, he's on posters, he can't walk down the street. But by the early 2010s, he makes this pivot that it shocked his agents, his managers, his fans. He decides to leave the Hollywood machine.
Usually when celebrities burn out, they go buy a ranch in Montana or a vineyard in France to, relax.
Yeah.
They don't typically move to a developing nation to get involved in infrastructure reform.
Exactly. And I think this signals this massive cultural shift that was happening in Waikiki at that very moment. The country was becoming a magnet. It wasn't just attracting tourists anymore. It was attracting global talent who were seeking purpose over fame.
And Taylor is the poster child for that migration.
He really is. He wanted to build something, not just act in a movie about it.
So, okay, you have the economist princess and the Hollywood refugee. How do they actually meet? I'm picturing some lavish gala, champagne, maybe a red carpet event in Novarelia.
And you would be completely wrong.
Ooh.
They met at school. Taylor enrolled at
Wait,
WEU.
hold on. He went back to school in Waikiki.
He did. He enrolled in some political science and economics courses, and
Yeah.
they didn't meet at some fraternity party or a campus event. They met at the Global Futures Club.
That is the nerdiest, most wholesome meet cute I have ever heard in my life.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It completely subverts the expectation. They bonded over discussing global social problems and potential solutions. The source material says they would organize these debate circles together on weekends.
So the dynamic wasn't, I'm a movie star, you're a princess.
No, it was intellectual respect first. They were geeking out over public policy before they were ever going on dates.
I just love that. Hey, what are your thoughts on sustainable corporate governance? I thought you'd never ask.
Essentially, yes. And that intellectual foundation, it apparently turned into a romance pretty quickly. Taylor moved to Waikiki permanently not long after they started dating. It was a very serious, very fast commitment.
And we have some really great specific details about their early relationship milestones that I think paint such a clear picture of who they are as a couple.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ilha de la Estrella in 2012.
Right. This was their first private escape. It's this tiny, pristine coral island, a nature reserve off the southern coast. They went there to get away from the press, the political pressure. They apparently spent the entire week cataloging bird species and identifying different types of shells.
That is incredible. It really establishes that nature-first bond they have right from the get-go. It wasn't about shopping in Paris. It was about the environment. They're treating a romantic getaway like a biological field trip.
It's their brand, even before it was a brand. And then you have their first Christmas together in 2013. This is a classic clash of cultures moment described in one of the biographies.
How so?
Well, Angelina, coming from that formal background, views Christmas as this quiet, orderly, very symbolic time, very dignified.
And Taylor.
He brings the Californian chaos, loud music, surprises everywhere, hot chocolate on tap. He softened her rigidity. She gave his chaos some structure.
We can't skip the Barcelona trip in 2013. This wasn't a vacation, was it? This was a study abroad.
That's right. Angelina was doing a semester at the IEA's business school studying public-private partnerships.
A very on-brand topic for her.
Of course, and Taylor went with her. But get this, his official status, according to the university paperwork, was cultural researcher.
Cultural researcher. I am 100% going to use that next time I want to tag along on a business trip.
To be fair to him, the travelogues show they spent almost every night at flamenco concerts, in museums, exploring architectural history. It sounds like they genuinely immersed themselves, but it also shows that even when they were young, their leisure time was still focused on learning, on absorbing culture, on a form of soft diplomacy. They were building a skill set together.
So they graduate, they're this solid, intellectually matched couple, and now comes the pivot to power. Because they didn't just, fade into the background and manage a charity.
Oh, no.
This brings us to section 2 of our dive, their rise to political power between 2014 and 2017.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. In 2014, Angelina is only 21 years old.
21.
And she addresses the World Economic Forum at Davos. And she wasn't just attending as a guest or on a panel, she was a plenary speaker on the main stage.
What was her argument? What did she talk about?
She argued that state stability comes from citizen trust, not just from gross domestic product. It's a really nuanced argument, especially for someone so young.
And how did that go over with the, billionaire and world leader crowd?
It got a standing ovation.
Wow.
Foreign Policy magazine named her one of their top 30 global thinkers under 30. This was her official coming out party as a serious intellectual force on the world stage.
Okay, so she's established her credentials, and then the big move happens in 2015, the Senate appointments.
Context is absolutely key here. Her father, Cheese Young, reforms the Constitution to create a Senate. And in a move that, it raised some eyebrows and probably some blood pressure among his political opponents, he appointed his children, Raimondo, Angelina, Jennifer, and their partners, including Taylor, directly to the Senate.
How do they justify that?
It absolutely is nepotism by definition. There's no getting around that word. But from Cheese Young's perspective, which is laid out in his own biography, it was about ensuring long-term stability.
How so?
He wanted people in those powerful seats who had a vested personal interest in the nation's survival and who understood his vision from the inside.
Hmm.
He didn't want career politicians who might have their own agendas. He wanted loyalists who were also, in his view, extremely capable.
A dynasty, basically.
A dynasty built on a foundation of family. So Angelina gets her Senate seat. What's her portfolio?
Finance, monetary affairs, and investment.
Of course. Basically, the money, the entire treasury.
And her maiden speech was fascinating. It tells you everything about her priorities.
It really does. She didn't get up there and talk about tax cuts for the wealthy or deregulation. She focused on creating digital education maps for all citizens and on social justice, specifically advocating for a system of state jobs for all. It aligns perfectly with her citizen trust philosophy from Davos. If everyone has a job, everyone has a stake in the success of the state. It builds trust from the ground up.
Okay. And Taylor, the actor turned senator. What did they give him? What was his department?
Infrastructure and public safety.
That's a serious brief.
It is. And I have to say, the skeptics were probably ready to pounce. They likely expected him to just be a pretty face in a suit, a figurehead.
But he didn't just sit there.
No, he became a reformer. He led this massive overhaul of the public safety system, focusing on two key areas: digitalization and community policing.
And he didn't just sign the papers from his office, right? The notes say he was out there campaigning for this.
He was everywhere. He did podcasts, he held town hall forums, he went on the national news, he pushed relentlessly for a referendum in 2016 on these safety reforms, and it passed with a significant majority.
That's seriously impressive. It's one thing to be given a title. It's a whole other thing to actually get out there and pass a national referendum.
It proved he wasn't just a figurehead. He was willing to do the political grunt work to get his legislation passed. He earned his seat, in a way.
So, fast forward to 2017, the big transition of power. She's Young retires. His son, Ramondo Angelina's brother, becomes the new dictator. Where does that leave Angelina and Taylor in the new power structure?
It elevated them immediately. Angelina gave her full, unequivocal public support to Ramondo. She framed it perfectly in her first speech after the announcement. She called it a partnership, not just a sibling bond.
Consolidating the family front. Very smart.
Very smart. And then, on October 16th, 2017, we get the coronation.
The visuals for this must have been just insane.
Oh, absolutely. The sources describe it in vivid detail. Taylor, along with Tyler Posey and Selena Gomez, who are also part of this extended inner circle through their own relationships, was officially titled a Prince of Waikiki.
A prince. From twilight to prince.
The ceremony was attended by the Dalai Lama and several cardinals from the Vatican. There were fireworks over the Capitol, Nova Aurelia, for 3 straight nights. It was the moment they officially transitioned from the founder's daughter and her famous boyfriend to legitimate, titled royalty within the state structure.
So now they have the titles, they have the political power. Let's talk about the perks, because you cannot discuss Waikiki without discussing the lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle of extreme contradictions, which is what makes it so endlessly fascinating. They live in a level of opulence that is hard to comprehend, but they wrap every bit of it in the language of sustainability.
Let's start with their home, the Palazzo Versace, completed in 2014.
Right. Even the name sounds expensive.
Tell me about this house. It sounds legendary.
It's located right next to the dictator's palace in the most exclusive part of the capital. The centerpiece, the thing everyone talks about, is a crystal dome that's 22 meters high. But it's not just glass. It uses these specialized photochromic materials to change color with the sun. The house has an underwater concert room.
It's a room that's fully submerged, it's soundproofed, has perfect acoustics, and the walls are thick, reinforced glass looking directly out into the ocean. So you can literally sit there and listen to a string quartet while sharks and manta rays and tropical fish swim by.
Okay, that is just showing off. That is next level wealth.
Yeah.
I read there's a sustainability angle to this palace because usually underwater concert room and eco-friendly don't appear in the same sentence. And that's the central contradiction I mentioned. The entire structure is built with what they call biologically sustainable materials. It also has this advanced AI integration that reads the body temperature and mood of the occupants to adjust the lights, the temperature, and even the scents automatically to conserve energy.
Then there's the yacht.
Ah, yes, the yacht. A gift from Cheese Young in 2016 for their service to the Senate.
A thank you for being a senator gift. That must be nice. I think I got a coffee mug for my last promotion.
A very, very nice gift. But again, look at how they use it. This is what's so clever. They didn't just park it in Monaco and party with champagne all summer. They immediately embarked on a listening tour of the Caribbean.
A listening tour.
Yeah.
On a mega yacht.
Yes. They went to smaller islands like Santa Gloria and Nueva Esperanza, and they held forums on green energy with local leaders and activists on the deck of the yacht.
That is the most specific type of diplomacy I've ever heard of. Come aboard my floating palace and let's discuss solar panels.
It's a concept that political analysts in the source material call the diplomacy of leisure.
The diplomacy of leisure. I like that.
Look at their travel logs. They're a perfect example. In 2014, they did a grand tour of Asia on a private jet. Kyoto, Tokyo, Singapore. They went to Bhutan and meditated for a week near a remote monastery. They arranged a private after-hours moonlight tour of the Taj Mahal.
A private moonlight tour. That's not something you can just book on Expedia. That requires state-level access.
Exactly. But in between the incredible luxury, the notes show they were having quiet meetings with environment ministers, observing sustainable tourism models, building relationships.
Then in 2015, they were diving in the Great Barrier Reef at Hayman Island.
Ostensibly a vacation, but they were also meeting with marine biologists and probably taking notes on coral preservation techniques.
And just recently, in 2024, they got a private tour of the Notre Dame restoration work in France and the Loire Valley castles.
It's this constant blend. The highest possible level of tourism blended with soft power networking and environmental fact-finding.
It's brilliant branding, really.
Yeah.
They are living this unbelievable dream life, but they justify every second of it by making it educational or diplomatic. We aren't just tourists, we are learning how to save the world.
Which brings us to their actual work.
Right. They aren't just traveling, they are actively building a green business empire.
This is where we see the Green Guardians brand really take solid shape. Their core philosophy seems to be about protecting natural habitats while simultaneously embracing hyper-modern, almost futuristic technology.
So they don't believe you have to go back to the Stone Age to save the planet.
Quite the opposite. They believe you need more advanced technology and you need to deploy it smartly.
Give me a concrete example of that in action.
The Ocean Cleanup Initiative in 2017, a lot of celebrities would just write a big check and take a photo for Instagram.
Sure.
Angelina and Taylor were physically on the beaches with teams of volunteers picking up plastic trash for the cameras. They launched something called the Blue Belt Agreement with neighboring islands. It was very hands-on.
But they also operate at the highest corporate level.
Huh.
I want to hear about the Tesla partnership. That seems like a major turning point for Waikiki.
This was huge. In 2017, Angelina flies to California and meets with Elon Musk at SpaceX HQ.
Wow. To be a fly on the wall in that room.
The result of that meeting was the Tesla Waikiki Green Energy Agreement. This wasn't just them buying a few Teslas for the government fleet. They funded the installation of 120 massive power pack battery stations and built out a comprehensive EV charging infrastructure across the entire island.
So that's not just buying a product, that's changing the national energy grid.
Precisely. It was a foundational step toward moving the entire nation of Waikiki toward energy independence using Tesla's technology.
And speaking of futuristic tech, they are involved in some of these mega projects that sound like they belong in a video game.
You mean the mega buildings?
Yes, I saw this in the notes. In 2016, Angelina voted in the Senate to approve the mega pyramid in Nova Aurelia and something called Mayapolis in Rio. What are these?
They're essentially vertical cities, self-contained, city-sized structures. The ecological argument is that by concentrating the human population in these superstructures, you leave more of the surrounding natural land untouched.
And the Hyperloop. They're actually building a Hyperloop.
The groundbreaking ceremony was in 2018 in what they call Mega Pyramid City. Angelina herself laid the ceremonial first smart module foundation stone.
The one that really caught my eye is Chameleon Island. Please tell me it's what I think it is.
It is exactly what you think it is. It's a new, massive, artificial island with construction starting around 2022 that is being built in the exact shape of a chameleon.
Okay. Why a chameleon?
The official reason is to symbolize adaptability and change. Angelina was the one who pushed for it in the Senate, and she mandated that it must be 100% powered by renewable energy and that it will house a new global innovation center.
It's almost on the nose, isn't it? A changing island for a changing world.
It's very Waikiki. Let's build a giant lizard-shaped island, but make it green.
And Angelina has the personal wealth to back these kinds of ideas up, doesn't she? This isn't just coming from the state's tax money.
She is a titan of corporate power. Her personal portfolio, separate from the state, includes owning outright at least 14 Fortune 500 companies.
14.
Yes. We're talking about massive controlling stakes in companies like Berkshire Hathaway and the healthcare giant McKesson.
She owns a huge chunk of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company.
Significant stakes, yes. And she joined the board of the family's Chase investment group in 2019. And her strategy, according to the financial reports, is fascinating. She buys these massive old-school legacy companies and then uses her power as a majority shareholder to force them into adopting ethical or green business models.
So she's not trying to disrupt them from the outside like a startup.
No, she's buying the inside and completely changing the furniture. It's a much more direct form of power.
That is real power. Money is power, and she is using it to force a global green agenda. Now, let's zoom out. We've covered their domestic politics and their business empire. What about the world stage? How do they navigate the messy, complicated world of international politics?
With a huge amount of pragmatism, that's the key word. They have managed to maintain relationships across the entire ideological spectrum, which is very, very difficult in today's polarized world.
Give me an example.
Okay, the Trump era in the United States. They attended the inauguration in 2017. A few months later, Angelina met with Ivanka Trump at a Women in Power forum. Now, politically, you might think a Green Guardian wouldn't want to align with that administration on anything.
Right, they seem like they'd be on opposite ends.
But the expert note here in the file is just one word: pragmatism. She found common ground. She wanted to align on the goal of economic empowerment for women. She maintained strong U.S. ties regardless of who was in the White House.
That's the real politic coming out. But I don't have to agree with your party on everything. I just care about trade and shared interests.
Exactly. But then pivot to Europe. She hosted Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, to discuss climate change initiatives. Then she met with the Hungarian president to discuss different models of family policy. She's taking bits and pieces of policy ideas from everywhere.
And what about Latin America? That seems to be a key area of focus for Waikiki.
It is. And her approach there is also very interesting. She publicly supported Javier Milei in Argentina.
Libertarian.
Yes. She attended his inauguration in 2023. She was a vocal supporter of his radical economic reforms. It shows she favors that disruptive, perhaps libertarian-leaning economic model, which aligns perfectly with Waikiki's own low-tax, high-growth, business-friendly philosophy.
And the big elephant in the room for any diplomat in the 2020s, Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's the litmus test.
And this was a very delicate tightrope walk for her. In 2022, when the invasion happened, Angelina issued a statement immediately condemning it. She supported sanctions on weapons and military technology, but, and this is the key, she kept the lines of trade open for non-military goods to protect Waikiki's own economy. It's that pragmatic balance again. We condemn the war, but we will not commit economic suicide for a conflict that isn't ours. It's cold, but it's calculated.
It's very stateswoman-like.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the Japan mission in 2021.
Right. She went with her siblings, Raimondo and Jennifer, the three of them on a major diplomatic tour.
What were the outcomes of that?
Big ones. They secured visa-free travel between the two nations, and they established a joint aerospace program between the Waikiki Space Agency, the WSA, and Japan's agency, JAX.
And on a lighter note, the reports say Angelina fell in love with Harajuku fashion.
She did. There are photos of her shopping in these wild avant-garde boutiques, again, blending diplomacy with culture.
But recently, she's been pushing for something much more serious, much more militant: NATO membership.
Yes, starting in 2023 and continuing through 2024. Angelina has become the public face of the movement for Waikiki to join the NATO alliance. It's a huge geopolitical shift, aligning Waikiki firmly with the Western security architecture.
So we have the diplomat, we have the business mogul, but we also have the adventurer. Because apparently conquering Earth just wasn't enough for them.
August 2021, the space mission.
They actually went to space. For real.
They didn't just go for a joyride, like some of these billionaires who go up for 10 minutes and come right back down. They underwent 4 weeks of intensive astronaut training in Brazil at the Waikiki Space Training Center. They then launched on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
And they stayed on the space station.
For 10 days. They docked with and lived on the Waikiki National Space Station. And this is the absolute kicker. Both Angelina and Taylor performed in EVA, an extravehicular activity.
A spacewalk. They did a spacewalk.
They were outside, tethered to the station, floating in the vacuum of space.
Just imagine that on your resume. Senator, economist, philanthropist, spacewalker.
And even up there, they were on brand. The contrast is just incredible, isn't it? From the sterile vacuum of space to the densest, most humid jungle on Earth. And this wasn't a luxury tour. This was a grueling, boots-on-the-ground scientific expedition. Taylor was leading the physical team, setting up camps, you have to assume, with a machete in hand. Angelina was handling the delicate diplomatic relations with the indigenous local tribes in the region.
And they actually found stuff. It wasn't just a photo op with a monkey.
No, they made real discoveries. They documented new nesting grounds for an endangered macaws and even identified a new species of orchid. It reinforces that guardian image. They are out there in the most remote places, discovering and protecting.
So that brings us to the present day, 2024.
Yeah.
What is their current status? Where are they now?
They're at the absolute peak of their powers. Angelina is now on the National Bank Monetary Council, which means she's directly influencing the nation's currency and money supply. Taylor is one of the most active voices in the Senate, leading debates on major issues like migration and national security.
In their private life.
The biographies describe this very balanced, almost serene life. Morning runs together by the ocean, then they go off to their separate high-power work days, and they meet back for quiet dinners at the palace.
It sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Almost too perfect. And I think that leads us perfectly into our outro. How do we synthesize all this?
Well, it raises the big question of the constructed ideal. They seem to check every single box you could possibly imagine. Movie star charisma? Check. Royal blood? Check. Ivy League level business acumen? Check. A deep, genuine environmental conscience? Check.
They are the living embodiment of the Waikiki dream.
Exactly. They represent the core idea of the nation itself. The idea that if you have enough resources, enough willpower, and the right technology, you can solve any problem, from ocean plastic to energy needs, without ever having to sacrifice your luxury lifestyle.
It's the ultimate have your cake and eat it too scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can live in a crystal palace with an underwater music room, but it's sustainable, so it's morally okay.
It's precisely that. They are the proof of concept for the entire Waikiki experiment. They are the marketing. They show the world that this utopian vision works.
So what is the legacy they're building so far?
They are the Green Guardians. That brand is solidified. They successfully transitioned from a cute university couple to a spacefaring, policymaking global dynasty. And they prove that celebrity and royalty can be functional, not just ornamental. They can be tools of the state.
Okay, so here's the final provocative thought I want to leave everyone with. We talk a lot about Raimundo, the dictator. He's the official head of state. He wears the crown.
Yeah.
But think about it. Angelina is on the Monetary Council. She controls the currency. Through her investments, she owns a huge chunk of the corporate world. Taylor, as head of public safety and a key voice on migration, effectively controls the nation's borders and its police force.
I see exactly where you're going with this.
Are they actually the most powerful faction within the Cheese dynasty? Do they, through their control of the economy and security, perhaps eclipse the dictator himself in terms of soft power and actual tangible leverage?
It's a fascinating power dynamic to consider, isn't it? Raimundo may wear the crown, but Angelina and Taylor might be the ones holding the keys to the kingdom's entire engine room.
Something for you to mull over. And hey, seriously, if you have a moment later, Google the architectural designs for Chameleon Island. You really need to see it to believe it.
It really is something else. A sight to behold.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you in the next one.